Good. So the next chapter, it deals with charismatic leadership. And I want to start by playing a little movie clip here. Now, I think, of course, when we talk about charismatic leadership in an organization, it's difficult to show a movie clip of that because charismatic leadership is something that develops over time, probably a long time. But I found a movie clip of somebody. I would say that they are exhibiting charismatic leadership. You may agree or disagree. I'll be curious. I will ask you after the movie clip whether you think that this is an example of charismatic leadership within a few minutes. And I hope the sound works. Let's see here.
Talking about expectations?
Yes.
Expectations. What? What's interesting to me about that is, regardless of where I am, anywhere, every audience gets that. But it doesn't matter, that's just, the pentatonic scale for some reason.
If you're looking for a job in neuroscience, I think
Cool. So how many would call this an example of charismatic leadership? A few. How many would not call it an example of charismatic leadership? Okay, I'm curious.
I don't really know why. I just think that there might be something else at stake here.
Uh-huh.
Like, as he speaks of, like, everybody does this, every audience.
Uh-huh.
So I think there are many people who could stand up there and do the same, and the audience would get it. I don't think it's related to him as a leader.
No. Okay, cool. Okay. In that way. So you don't think that... So you think other people would be able to do the same? But what does that have to do with whether it's charismatic or not? That he is an example of that what he does is charismatic or not?
But isn't, like, charismatic leadership really bound on the person, like, in the leader's abilities?
Okay, yes, I see where you're going with it. So if for somebody to be a charismatic leader, it has to be them.
Yeah.
It has to be something unique, something nobody else can do.
I would say so.
Yeah, okay, cool. and you go like, nah, this is anybody can do that if they're good at improvising, or well, I guess it wasn't improvising, but singing. Yeah, cool. I'm curious, people who thought it was charismatic, why? Yeah.
He's able to just naturally bring in the whole crowd with him without having to give specific instructions or explain himself in detail. It
Uh-huh.
just naturally comes to him.
Yeah, there's something about people just follow him, and he doesn't have to spend a long time on. I mean, he's literally just walks up, speaking about expectation, and starts jumping and singing, and people go like, okay, that's what we're doing now. Yeah, cool. Others? Why would you call it charismatic? Mm-hmm.
I think just a like natural effect on followers without them actually knowing what he's doing. They're just following his lead.
Yeah.
So this unawareness
Yeah.
with the followers,
Yeah.
that they're being led.
Okay, so that willingness to just go with it. I don't know where we're going with this, but cool, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Good. So yeah, like being able to create that positive atmosphere.
One thing is, I think it's very true. It's very engaging, but there's also an element that is that he's still directive in a sense. He's still the one sort of setting the course, and the fact that he's sort of overlaying his own melody on top of the crowd's melody sort of gives him sort of like he's still in focus, or the leader.
Yeah.
Very much like, but he's also very, very good at bringing in people.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Okay, so let's look at the theories that try to explain like what is charismatic leadership, and maybe at the end of it we'll talk a little bit more about this clip and see if we can determine for sure whether he's charismatic or not. So there we go. So charismatic authority comes from Weber. I think did we talk about this when we talked about transformative leadership? Anyway, so Weber talks about in bureaucracies you can get authority by being rational, by speaking to tradition, or by being charismatic. So it's like one of three sources of authority in a bureaucratic organization. And so here there's a little bit some different things that's been said about charisma. So individual charisma is a divine gift that allows people to inspire and be seen as a leader. So it speaks a little bit to what you were saying, right? That it's like a personal thing. It's like a divine gift. It's not something. If everybody can do it, it isn't it. Then some look at charisma and say, well, actually it's co-constructed. Some people might think, and that some people are charismatic, but others think that they're not. And this is also right. It's like some of you thought he was charismatic, but there were also people who go, nah, I don't see it. So that it's something that is ascribed to people by followers. So it's co-constructed. It's not residing in the individual. And that other people say, well, actually charismatic leaders is all about a fit between the leader and the context. So charismatic leaders arise in times of crisis when people feel the need for divine intervention. And actually the same leaders can be problematic when the crisis is over. And again, I know that I have referred to him many times, but Rudy Giuliani, I think, is a fantastic example of this, right? He was the mayor of New York City during the 9/11 attacks, and he was really seen like a charismatic leader, somebody inspiring hope. He was there on the ground, personally, and inspiring hope and such. And I think it is uncontroversial to say that now he is not seen as a particularly great leader, but more as a buffoon, often characterized as a buffoon. So this shows that there is something about charisma that is dependent on context. So that makes sense, right? This is good. Then you have sort of traditional theories talking about it. So you recognize Bernard Bass, which is the transformational leadership, and it's part of his framework. He talks about transformational leaders having to have these 4 eyes, and one of them is charismatic influence. So the capacity to inspire people is what he talks about there. Then there's some other people there talking about charisma, and they talk about charismatic leaders as somebody who exhibits these things, like they are able to communicate a vision that differs from the status quo. So they have a vision of changing things. Then they have unconventional and innovative means for achieving the vision. So they have new thoughts there. They have realistic assessments of resources and constraints. So they are not just ideologues who are or dreamers. They are realistic in this, and they can articulate vision and using impression management to rally followers. So they can mobilize energy towards the vision, and if you have that, then you will be seen as a charismatic leader. And then the last there they say, well, charisma is simply just leaders that embody followers' leadership ideal. So whatever is your leadership ideal, if you meet a leader that match it, you go like, they're really charismatic. I like these people, right? It's much simpler. So you can think about it like, for example, Bobby McFerrin is like, maybe the people who find him charismatic just go like, I would like to have this person as a boss. He seems like a nice guy, and therefore. So you see, these are different kind of takes from a more traditional leadership theory on charisma. So what Donna is suggesting is that charisma isn't so much about these things, that charisma is an aesthetic experience. So what does she mean by that? She means that it's like you experience a leader, and well, leadership has an aesthetic side. So and by aesthetic, she doesn't mean like sometimes we use the word aesthetic to mean like nicely designed or something like that. But she means and she has this very nice. She says it's the opposite of anesthetic. And what happens when you in anesthesia, you take away sensation. So it's about things pertaining to sensation, that's what she means by aesthetics. And of course, if somebody stands up in a room and delivers a speech, they have a tonality of the voice, they have a position of their body, they have a way of moving, they have a rhythm in their speech, they have, maybe they have an accent, maybe they have, so there are all these somatic aspects to leadership. And sometimes somebody will stand up and deliver a speech and you just go like, this is like cringy, right? And sometimes you go, yeah, this is like yummy somehow. So you have this almost physical response to the aesthetic side of it. Like two people can say imagine that two people have memorized the exact same speech, but the delivery is different. How many here like to watch stand-up comedy? How many have tried to retell a joke from a stand-up comedian to their friends and it just falls flat? Yeah, why? Because the delivery is so important. Maybe it's like this sort of pushy, aggressive thing of C.K. Lewis or Bill Burr or somebody like that, or maybe it's this like baffled, confused, dazed delivery of somebody else, and it has a real impact. So leadership has an aesthetic side, and what Donna suggests is to understand the concept of charisma. It's an aesthetic phenomenon. it is not about whether they have a particular vision. It is about delivery. You have to look for the explanation of charisma in the in aesthetics. And so she turns to Kant, Immanuel Kant, who has different aesthetic categories. And one of his aesthetic categories, so like aesthetic categories is like beautiful or ugly or comical, or one of the categories that he has is the sublime. And again, I think here sometimes if you say something is sublime, right? Maybe you somebody has cooked a pasta dish and you go, oh, this pasta dish is sublime. You basically just mean I really like it, right? It's tasty or something like that. This is not what Kant means by sublime. So to understand what Kant means by sublime, you can think about you can contrast it to the beautiful, because this is often what we confuse the two, right? We think sublime, beautiful, potato, potato, but it's really different. So the beautiful belongs to, and again, you can dispute this. You might not agree with Kant, but right now we're just looking at this is Kant's definitions. And you might disagree completely, but this is how Kant defines the two concepts. So what Kant says is that the beautiful belongs to the thing. If you see a chair and you think it's beautiful, it's a quality that pertains to the chair. The sublime is attributed by the perceiver. So I don't know if you could say that, I don't know what kind of chair would deserve the sublime. But it's like the perceiver looking at the chair going like, for me, this is sublime. So it's the perceiver ascribing it to the thing. It doesn't exist in the thing. Another thing is about imagination. The beautiful can be held in the imagination. The sublime is beyond what can be held in the imagination. And to understand that, you talk about like, if you look at the night sky, for example, it might be that might be sublime because it's too big to fathom. You can't hold it in your imagination. If you look at a well-designed chair, it doesn't disturb you, right? A well-designed chair is like, okay, it's really cool, but it has to be really well-designed for you to have that sense of, oh, this is overwhelming, I can't fathom it. But the night sky, or maybe a cliff or something like that, especially if you live in Denmark, then cliffs are impressive, right? You're not used to them. And then the last thing, the affect, is for the beautiful, it's just pleasurable. It's pleasurable and nothing else. Looking at something that's beautiful, eating something that's beautiful, engaging with something beautiful, it's just feel good, it's just pleasurable. There's nothing bad about it. But for the sublime, because it's beyond what can be held by the imagination, it is disturbing, but at the same time pleasurable. It's kind of like, again, like the night sky, it has that duality. It can be very pleasurable to look at the night sky, but at the same time, it has that disturbance because it makes you feel incredibly small and out of control at the same time, right? It's like it has that duality. Does this make sense how he distinguished between the two? Fantastic. Okay, so what does that have to do with leadership? Donna compares Clinton, and that's Hillary Clinton, and Obama, and argues that Obama, part of why Obama won is because he invoked the category of the sublime. And also, maybe back up, many people would describe Barack Obama as charismatic. How many will agree with that? How many would say that Hillary Clinton is charismatic? Okay, it's interesting, right? So there's like, okay, you see her as charismatic, and that's interesting, right? Because we can sort of like go back and maybe analyze why is that. But you see, like statistically, Barack Obama is seen by charismatic by a lot more people. And Donna says, can we use the categories of the sublime to understand why is that? Why is he seen as charismatic by more people than Hillary Clinton? So she talks about how they frame context, how they engage followers, and their physical appearance. And basically, it's like, remember the sublime she says a leader is seen as sublime if they invoke something that is too big to fathom. So they invoke something that's overwhelming, and then they engage followers in such a way that you feel we can manage anyway, right? This is the duality when you invoke something that's overwhelming, and then at the same time inspire people to confidence in dealing with it. Then people are more likely to ascribe to you the category of charismatic. Does this make sense? Good. So if you look at how Clinton, she talked about there's a lot of problems in the US and they're caused by negligence of past politicians, and I have a lot of experience, and I can fix this. So and I care about all Americans. I don't just care about some of them, and I can fix things so that it's gonna be better for everybody, right? So first of all, she doesn't invoke anything that's overwhelming. On the contrary, she tries to say the problems are actually not, they're completely fixable. She's not saying this, we're standing in front of a precipice. She's like, oh, we're standing in front of a hill, and there are techniques to climb a hill. So, and then she also, the way she engages followers, it's like, you guys can trust me to do it. I'm gonna be the one dealing with it. You just give me your vote, and then you don't have to participate anymore. I'll do it for you. Which arguably is a very nice thing to say, but it doesn't inspire that sense of like, we can do this together in the face of great odds against us. On the contrary, Obama talks about, like, when you look at his speeches, he talks about the nation being at a crossroads and sort of like a mythical battle and change. It's like the way he talks about the challenges that the US was facing at the time. It's this, you can see in this, he talks about it, he frames it as something overwhelming, something mythical. And then when he engages followers, he says, we can do this together. He's very much emphasizing this, like, I need you guys to do this with me. And so in that way, he creates that, he invokes the category of the sublime, and that is why he's seen as charismatic. They also talk about the physical appearance, because we're talking about aesthetics. And they talk about how the physical appearance can create challenges. And I think we talked a little bit about that before. We mentioned this category. So Clinton is the first serious female candidate, and Obama was the first serious mixed race candidate. And that means you have different expectations. Female has some expectations, president has some expectations. Mixed race, especially black, has some expectations, president has some expectations. Can you square these? Donna argues that Obama was more able to square the two than Hillary Clinton. But I think it's really in the first two that you see this idea of the category of the sublime. So I must admit, first time I heard this argument, I thought it was a pretty bad argument. I was like, really? But the more I thought about it, the more I think, no, there's something to it. The people who found Bobby McFerrin charismatic, can you use the category of the sublime to explain why? Did he invoke, according to this take, he should have invoked something that is mythical. Yeah?
The mythical part for me is that, first of all, the music has a sort of communal and then a bit of a tribal sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound racist, but the fact that he is black and has this traditional black style of hair gives me the idea that he has perhaps a vision for communal music making that is tied more to like ancient roots or a different culture than mine.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a theme, and an implicit theme in my interpretation.
Yeah.
You might have some sort of like musical, I wisdom is not quite the word, but musical sort of experience.
Magic or something like that. Yeah.
That I haven't tried before, and then I want to try and experience.
Yeah, yeah, cool. And it's interesting you mentioned his physical appearance, which for you connects with a narrative of something mythical and communal. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
Yeah, also the fact that he doesn't explain anything, and that the music first is like 1, 2, and then it's 1, 2, 3, and then it's like so. It's also a mystery where the music will go, like what will happen, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good.
It kind of evoked the imagination, so you had to like imagine what was going on, and like the interesting part is that everyone kind of starts imagining the same.
Yes.
In that regard, he's quite powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Anyone else? Yeah.
I mean, the way he look is also kind of different from the other speaker. He is the only one that like
Yeah, he stands
wearing
out.
T-shirt and wearing like the casual style.
Yeah.
Which may be like actuate like, in terms of the perceiver, like they are more authentic. He's more authentic in a way, and he is
Yeah.
more confident about himself and what he do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely. I also think the reason I let the clip go beyond the. Oh, did you have something?
No.
Okay. The reason I let the clip go beyond the music is because I think that final sentence somehow does something, right? When he says, no matter where I go, every audience gets this. Right? So that, and there he taps into something like, again, mythical, something that is fundamental human, that transcends nationalities and stuff like that.
I also thought during the clip that he was actually able to push what the followers is able to do, or
Yeah.
are able to do, because I think if he told them we need to do this exercise and so on, the followers might be like, we are not able to do that, a
Yeah.
whole room, what are you talking about? But he's like, because he's so in the moment, the anxiousness of the followers not being able to perform the assignment or
Yeah.
fulfill his wishes
Yeah.
are like overruled by the intuitive
Yeah.
go along.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think they end up having that experience. I did not know that we could participate in something like that. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I after hearing like every comment, I still don't get how these 3 tools help to identify this guy as a great leader with charisma. I mean, I can picture Obama as a great leader,
Uh-huh.
a charismatic leader, but I cannot understand why this guy is very charismatic.
Do you find him charismatic?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Okay, cool. Why not?
As you said before, like Obama brings this speech of we have this problem, and then suddenly he inspires you and provokes me confidence the way he speaks, and whereas this person to me, he looked like a guy in a pool in a summer party just making
Yeah.
an activity.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
to me, he's not a leader. It's just like a guy entertaining people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't see how these 3 concepts fit to this guy, honestly.
No. And
Not
this is
inspired
no,
to
but
go.
this is very interesting, right? Because remember the first one, quality, right? The sublime is attributed by the perceiver. It's not in him. It's something that people can attribute to him, and you don't do that. You don't see him as you go like, what are you talking about mythical? He's just like an entertainer, So, and therefore you don't see him as charismatic. So in that sense, it fits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah. Cool. Good. Anything else about this chapter? Does it make sense, this chapter? So it's a way of trying to evoke philosophy of aesthetics to try and understand this phenomenon of charismatic leaders. Oh yeah, wait a minute. I think I had something. No, maybe it's not here. Yeah.
Oh, just it was also interesting how the people in the back that was seated.
Yeah.
They were not followers in the situation, but they were still attributing a lot of other like
was offered a job.
He was immediately offered a job in neuroscience.
The father-leader relation was also
Behind
seen
him.
as kind of charismatic, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. It's like they didn't ask for his resume or something like that. They just go like, if you can do that, we want to hire you. So that good trick to your next job interview, right?
Just maybe my point is a little bit related to what he
Yeah.
say. I feel like maybe charismatic leadership can be problematic in somehow because it's just like a part of inspiring people to do something. But it's not leadership is not just inspire or starting the work, but it's also like to execute the work as well. But I believe that maybe these charismatic leadership maybe not grab the whole spectrum of leadership.
Yeah, definitely. And as when we talked about transformational leadership, we also talked about inspiring people, cool, but maybe it's not. Maybe whether it's cool or not depends on what you're inspiring them to do, right? You remember the discussion about Hitler versus Gandhi. Both of them could be, in a way, you can say that, and this is the theme that constantly comes back when we're talking about charismatic leadership, right? You can say, well, this Hitler seems to fit the bill as well, in a sense, right? It's like a mythical quest, creating the Third Reich. That is kind of a mythical quest, inspiring confidence that we can do it. Yeah, he kind of did that. So again and again, you come back to this. If you want charismatic leadership to be a positive trait, it's problematic that every single time you describe charismatic leadership in one way or another, it fits perfectly on Hitler. You go, oh. Yeah. But I think we are in the next chapter we might come to a hint at how can we sever the two, how can we distinguish between Gandhi and Hitler, which we kind of would like to do. Good, let's do 10 minutes break and come back at 12.